get comfortable in the shade, drink some water, make some art. This is our final talk of the day before all the good music starts. We have the intersection of music, climate, and community. All great things, all right here. We have Leah Thomas joining us, founder of Intersectional Environmentalist, moderated by Aunny de la Rosa. Let's give it up for our speakers.
Hello. Thanks for coming. Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
I'm a little warm, but so is the planet.
No?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Good, it's really great to meet you. I've been following you. I was telling the Global Interitance crew I've been following you for like 6 or 7 years since I started my climate journey. And you were one of the first like climate influencers that I found, and I was like so relieved that there are young people like out there doing it with a platform, and you were already so prolific at that time. So thank you for doing what you do, honestly, because I think that you're reaching like an entirely new generation in a really approachable way.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah,
And you're so cool too. Thank you for moderating.
Of course, yeah. Well, for anyone who does not know Leah, Leah is an author of The Intersectional Environmentalist. I think a really great place for us to start is really to kind of define what that term means, because some people, I think it's just like a term that people maybe hear a lot about intersectionality, but when it comes to climate, I think it, is worth a conversation.
Yeah, intersectional environmentalism is like 12 syllables. Sometimes it feels so long. But in essence, it really just means protecting people and the planet. And it stems from Black feminist theory. That's where intersectional theory was born, which really just explains kind of the overlaps and different identity aspects. Because all of us are such dynamic human beings. There's multiple parts of who we are. So intersectional theory first started. There was a Black woman named Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw that was exploring her Black identity in addition to her womanness. And that's what led to intersectional feminism, where all sorts of people explore those two dynamics. So I wanted to apply that theory to environmentalism, because when it comes to like who experiences environmental hazards the most, sometimes there's overlapping factors, whether it's location, geography, income, race, etc. So an intersectional approach to environmentalism doesn't ignore those things or those unequal burdens, and then also more fun, make sure that environmental education is as diverse as possible.
So I'm really curious about like how you grew up, because I feel like to get to this point at like so young, to like be so aware and have this level of awareness around the environment and activism around climate justice in particular. How were you raised? Like, I'm curious about like, no, I guess it's really something to be proud of.
My dad is a tennis coach, and my mom is a counselor and therapist, and I have like a really hippie grandmother, so they all collectively took me to protests when I was like 2, and I was always outside, so naturally those two things kind of combined. But I'm from the Midwest, I attribute that a lot to my understanding of environmentalism too. Like everybody had a garden, it was a really slow pace of life, and I felt really connected with my natural environment.
Well, I have like been sort of looking at the news around you, and like you're following your Instagram, of course, and I see that you've launched a couple new projects recently. Can you tell us a few things about those?
So Intersectional Environmentalist just relaunched with a database of about 500 environmental justice organizations. So those are those organizations that are, at that intersection of social justice and environmental issues, to make it as easy as possible for people to find, who are the EJ people in my community. And then secondly, and more probably related to Coachella, is the Earth Sessions project, which is all about music and environmental education. So we work with different musicians to have launch parties or events, and bring in their audiences, and then they get to learn about environmental justice.
Yeah. I mean, how cool is it for a place like Coachella to have this sort of like ancillary program where people can come and learn something, take a break from the music, and like be inspired with these kind of conversations. So like big ups to Global Interitance for putting this on, for work very hard to do this, and it's just an amazing value add to a place like Coachella.
Great people.
So the topic here is the intersection of music, climate, and community. And I think you mentioned Earth sessions. Yeah. So how do you work with like the music industry, or what sort of lens do you look at the music industry from like a climate perspective?
A couple different ways. So some things that I do would just be like massive scale things. Like I love learning from the folks at Global Interitance. I went to a Coldplay concert and then also did a pop-up at a Billie Eilish concert, and just trying to find different ways. At Billie's show, I was like out in the crowd, like just yelling at people, like, "Do you want to learn about sustainability?" That doesn't work. You have to like, give them stickers and stuff. And then at Coldplay, I was just really curious, like artists at this scale, like what are you doing? And they were doing a lot, and it was pretty cool. But then I just found not everybody's Billie. Not everybody's Coldplay. Not everybody has an awesome mom like Maggie, that's Billie's mom, who's like a sustainability activist. And how can other artists who also have different fan bases kind of engage with environmentalism when it's not just, which is very important, centered around waste management or getting healthy foods at your humongous shows for hundreds of thousands of people. So that's where Earth Sessions was kind of born. Like, how can we go local? Because environmental action for me is always local, and I wanted to do that with artists. Like, how can we get you connected to a local community in a way that doesn't really feel like the traditional kind of doom and gloom environmental space, but just create a space that feels really welcoming and warming, and people come for the music and then they walk away like, oh, there's people who care about the environment and they look like me and they listen to alternative R&B, so maybe I can be like a part of this.
That's the definition of community, right? It's like connecting with people through shared subject matter. And you talked about like the sort of doomist element, alarmist element of talking about the environment. Like, if that's personally something that I kind of struggle with when I talk to friends, is like instantly it's so easy to go into like this sort of doomist sort of point of view, because things, if you look at the data, things are pretty serious.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that in these different, arenas that you're in, like music, the way you kind of describe it, it's like a Trojan horse for talking about climate. Do you feel like it's important to have like another sort of vehicle by which to like bring climate into the conversation?
Absolutely. I really like Show Up Anywhere, and some people think it's questionable. Like Playboy messaged me and they're like, "Can you write an article about environmental racism?" It's like, bet. Like whoever's reading Playboy, like you're gonna learn this knowledge about environmental racism. And I feel the same way when it comes to music. I love Coldplay. They have so many bops, but there's other musicians that aren't Coldplay, and they might not be an environmental activist. They're probably not an environmental activist. But they're down to do what they can. So I really just want to be that person that people who are outside of my community can like get active with.
In that regard, you say like not everyone can be a Coldplay, not everyone can be a Billie, but in that way, like, what can like smaller like musicians or like people who are out there and they have a platform, what are some of the things that you feel like small things that like can go a long way?
You all hear us a little bit? Oh yeah, okay. So what can other artists do? Educate people about who the environmental organizations are in their communities. I think sharing resources when you can. When we pop up with artists, we also like give away books for free. So people who are there, they can learn about environmentalism. And I would say like knowing a couple well-vetted environmental justice organizations and like talking to your community about it. And then if you want, there's a new initiative called Earth%. I don't know them personally, but they work with musicians to give away a percentage of their like touring or merch sales to the environment, etc. There's also a new project that just launched with Spotify where artists can say that Mother Nature is like featured on their song. So if you look at that song and whenever it's streamed, I know streaming numbers like really low. but a percentage of that goes back to Mother Earth, and I thought that was a cute little way to do that.
So one of the projects that you mentioned earlier, you said that there were 500 plus environmental justice organizations. When I talk to friends and family about like, one of the first questions is like, well, what can I do in my daily life, that makes big changes? And I think people see the giant problem and they get sort of intimidated by it. It kind of freezes them into this non-action. So can you talk a little bit about, just some of the small ways that we just as anyone can start implementing into their lives to make these changes that become bigger when more people adopt them?
I think like starting with like the bar on the floor, just follow people on social media, like an environmental justice organization, a climate influencer, whatever it is. So that way like, you'll start getting those things and kind of creating your experience online. Going up a little bit, donate, even if it's $1 a month to an organization. So many orgs are underfunded. Raising up a little bit more, volunteer. A mentor of mine said, like, every movement needs an accountant. Like, it doesn't matter what you're really good at. If you're an accountant, a graphic designer, whatever it is, like, that can be applied to the movements that you care about. So volunteer. And then next, purchasing, support local, vintage, all that stuff. Like, your purchasing behavior is really important as well.
Yeah, it seems like, the younger generations, like I love that everyone's kind of like going back to thrifting. Like that's like, I think a lot of people would rather go to the thrift store than go to like a department store these days, which I love. Am I allowed to ask you about what you're working on, like behind the scenes? Okay. All right. Yeah, because there are some rumors about you working on a new book. Okay. Yeah, let's strike that.
I've had an idea for 2 years and I'm working on it. I'm really excited. It's a book that explores why we call the Earth Mother Earth. It really goes into ecofeminism and like the mythology behind why we call the Earth Mother Earth. It's pretty cool and a really serious rabbit hole that I've been on. So yeah, we're doing another book.
You're in LA, right?
Yeah, LA girl.
Okay, I am as well. For like our local books, like what kind of organizations do you work with? Like big plug first and foremost for global inheritance, but also in addition to that, like what other kind of like locally minded, creator, climate-minded organizations are there?
One thing I like is the Compton Community Garden. They do incredible work. I've taken like pickling classes there as well. There's one called Food Solve that I really like. They have a lot of fun classes. Hike Curve is my favorite hiking group. It's specifically for women of color, which is really cool. There's another one called like, they changed their name, but it's like Ebony Beach Club. And they're really fun as well.
I would like to open it up to the crowd if anyone has any questions for Leah.
Okay, so disproportionate impacts of the climate crisis on communities of color. There's so many, it's so sad. But one statistic is like 70% of African Americans live in communities that frequently violate federal air quality standards. There's a bunch of different statistics depending on what community you're talking about, like the Asian and Pacific Islander communities, Latino communities, indigenous communities, etc. Water scarcity is something that's a really big issue, and pollution for a lot of indigenous communities, like in rural spaces like Alaska, etc. And then, proximity to natural disasters. Do you compost? I mean, it's pretty cool. Do you have a garden? Like you can just plop it in the garden. So yeah, you should get like a little composter.
Can you recommend any books that someone like more knowledgeable on like
Books? My favorite book of all time is called The Intersectional Environmentalist: How to Dismantle Systems of Oppression to Protect People of the Planet by Leah. So that's a good place to start. Other books that I really enjoy, there's All We Can Save, amazing project. There's also, yeah, those two, actually. Sometimes like how to build better because there's so much inequity, and then also you were saying like with the Olympics coming up and all the infrastructure that's happening, how can we make sure urban communities don't? Okay, so what does a sustainable city look like to me? Okay. Public transportation, which LA is slowly getting better at, but that's something that boggles my mind, especially being in Europe so often. We really need inexpensive public transportation. At least the Bay Area has like art, but we don't even have something like that we can use, so we need better public transportation. I would love to see more, I don't know, they're branded, but like city bikes and more bikes and those sorts of programs. Also hiring people. That's something that's really frustrating to me, especially when there's gentrification, like not actually hiring the people from the communities to be able to like afford and live there, having affordable housing so people don't get like priced out of their communities. And then I don't want to go in on like protocols and things like that to make sure that businesses are sustainable. Like why not? I feel like we could pass some more laws that also have like a justice-focused lens, because I wouldn't want like a bodega to suddenly be hit with all of these like environmental regulations. So some sort of like support system for already existing communities. I don't know, like subsidies, like ways for sustainable businesses that might be POC owned to thrive, etc. But a lot of it has to do with like hiring people. And then I want more public transportation. I don't know if that fully answers it, but yeah.
I have a question about brands that you support, like bigger brands, right? It seems like a lot of brands are more aware of their footprint, right? Emissions, their manufacturing, transportation, all of these things. Are there any brands that you feel like are actually doing it right?
don't shop at this particular brand. But if there's a big brand that happens to have a sustainable collection that's ethically made, and there's someone, and that's just where they shop, and that's their price point, but they want to go buy a sustainable collection, like, I don't want to shut them down, especially because a lot of sustainable items are really expensive. That won't always be the case, so that becomes the norm. But I would say look at the packaging and the labeling. Like if it says it's green, what does that really mean? So look for things like recycled, organic, 1% for the planet, B Corp certified, etc. Or buy local. Like if you go to the farmer's market and like talk to people and be like, what is in this soap? Please explain this to me. But brands that don't have a sustainability report is also something to look out for. But there are some larger brands that actually buy up a lot of sustainable companies. So just because it's owned by one of the giants doesn't mean that it's not sustainable. But yeah.
I spend the majority of my days talking about waste, plastic waste, organic waste. At a big festival like this, obviously, like there's hundreds of thousands of people. We want to have fun, we want to do our thing, but there's an inevitable amount of waste that comes out of situations, like this and other sport events, etc. How involved were you in that conversation, particularly plastic waste is something I'm curious about?
Yeah, last year was really fun. I got to write my first investigative piece, and it was about Coachella and the sustainability behind it. And I met with a couple different teams, and to be honest, I was really blown away by the dreams that people who are working within the sustainability space and like the innovation. There was some code of conduct at Coachella, so people felt like I'm a part of the Coachella community, and I want to do what I can to protect it. So that doesn't just fall on the amazing crew of people that are picking up trash and sorting it and recycling it.
Totally, I love that. I love the saying that don't let perfection be the enemy of good, and that's so important in spaces like this where you see small incremental changes that ultimately, in critical mass, make such a massive impact on the planet.
Oh yeah, that's fun. Also, I love your hat. Is that new for last year?
Yeah, that's a great question.
I could probably find it online. Secondhand. Do I struggle with eco-anxiety? It's hard to say. I just have anxiety, so it's hard to know. Is this because of the earth? I think the only time I can specifically pinpoint I had eco-anxiety, the ocean was on fire 2 years ago because some oil spill, and my brain just couldn't comprehend that. I just stayed in bed and was like, what are we doing? I do, but honestly, and I talk about this, especially I don't know, being a black woman in America, I'm scared about my rights, my reproductive rights, my ability to exist as a black person, being a woman. There's so many other things, just day-to-day survival, so it's hard to know. And I think there's a conversation of is eco-anxiety a privilege for folks who are able to worry about the carbon in the atmosphere versus so many people that are worrying about their day-to-day or their day-to-day necessities. So I'm anxious in general. I think it's climate, I don't know, it could be infused in it for sure. But Gen Zers in particular, I looked at polling data, do experience something called climate fatalism. They have to make a new category on the scale because Gen Zers are they've only grown up in a world where they know that the climate crisis is a real thing. They're the first generation of people. An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore, the movie came out. It's going on its 20th anniversary. So everybody who's 20 and younger, they've grown up in a world where that was the reality. So I think we definitely need more environmentally informed mental health professionals that can address that. It's a small group.
So I love that you said that you're gonna buy a bit out of fall and run. Is Coachella ever considered create
great idea, like a secondary marketplace for festivals specifically. So when festival season comes around, people can shop through that. I also do clothing swaps with my friends sometimes, so that's something that I think could easily be organized all over the country, and specifically LA. And a lot of people want to get rid of their clothes, so I would rather them like give them to me, and I can hopefully give it to someone else. So yeah, that's a great idea. I don't know if that exists right now with Coachella, but maybe one day that would be really cool.
That's a great idea. Going back to the mental health question, I think something that's really important, especially when you're talking about climate anxiety, eco-anxiety, some people call it, is to just really pay attention to the good work that's being done. You know, like I'm sure like every single day you interact with folks and organizations who are doing really positive, uplifting work to support the communities. So I would just say pay attention to look for the good. You know, it's out there.
So, I'm a child of the 60s, but I was born in the 60s, and I drank tap water, because that's what we did when we were growing up here. And then, the water companies slowly influenced us to start drinking bottled water, and it was all plastic bottles. Do you see that trend ever going away, or do you think that that's still in like people's minds that they can't have water that's safe, either from the tap, filtered, or deionized, or osmosis, or whatever, reverse osmosis? So do you see that trend going away, or do you think it's going to continue to scare people into drinking bottled water?
Couple things. I think there's like a middle ground. So I think Jaden Smith was here last weekend, and he has this company called Just Water, and it's made with like paper. I don't know if there's a liner on the inside of it. And there's also like box water and things like that. I'm also seeing the big giants like Aunny, etc. Like they have aluminum can bottles. So I would see all of those single-use plastic companies switching to other materials, maybe selfishly because of profit, but because they know that's kind of a trend that's probably happening. And then I also think we need subsidies or just giving people really amazing water filters for free. Like how cool would it be if everyone moved into a house or they're renting a house and it has a really great water filter? Kind of, I think we need more education that the water is safe. But unfortunately, there's places like Flint, Michigan, where the water wasn't safe, and there's mining communities in the United States that have, fluids in their water, fracking fluids. So I think it's going to be harder. Like America needs to address the fact that a lot of people here don't actually have clean water to drink. Two, we should be making it more accessible for people to have amazing water filters. It makes me feel icky that that's something that is kind of reserved for the rich. Also, I drink my tap water as is. Well, I put it in like a little thing, but it's fine. I mean, I hope. And three, I think, using things like Just Water, if you can, like if people are going to do single use, sometimes they have to because the water's not safe, then to do like a paper or aluminum bottle.